Petra, originally known to its inhabitants as Rakmu or Rakb, is a historic and archaeological city in southern Jordan. It is adjacent to the mountain of Jabal al-Madba, in a basin surrounded by mountains forming the eastern flank of the Oraba Valley running from the Dead Sea to the Gulf of Aqaba. The area around Petra has been inhabited from as early as 7000 BC, and the Nabateans might have settled in what would become the capital city of their kingdom as early as the 4th century BC. Archaeological work has only discovered evidence of Nabatean presence dating back to the 2nd century BC, by which time Petra had become their capital. The Nabateans were nomadic Arabs who invested in Petra's proximity to the incense trade routes by establishing it as a major regional trading hub. The trading business gained the Nabateans considerable revenue, and Petra became the focus of their wealth. The Nabateans were accustomed to living in the barren deserts, unlike their enemies, and were able to repel attacks by taking advantage of the area's mountainous terrain. They were particularly skillful in harvesting rainwater, agriculture, and stone carving. Petra flourished in the 1st century AD, when its famous Al-Khazn structure, believed to be the mausoleum of Nabatean King Aurelius IV, was constructed, and its population peaked at an estimated 20,000 inhabitants. Although the Nabatean kingdom became a client state of the Roman Empire in the 1st century BC, it was only in 106 that it lost its independence. Petra fell to the Romans, who annexed Nabato and renamed it as Arabia Petro. Petra's importance declined as sea trade routes emerged, and after an earthquake in 363 destroyed many structures. In the Byzantine era, several Christian churches were built, but the city continued to decline, and by the early Islamic era it was abandoned except for a handful of nomads. It remained unknown until it was rediscovered in 1812 by Johann Ludwig Burckhardt. Pliny the Elder and other writers identify Petra as the capital of the Nabatean kingdom and the center of their caravan trade. Enclosed by towering rocks and watered by a perennial stream, Petra not only possessed the advantages of a fortress, but controlled the main commercial routes which passed through it to Gaza in the west. Excavations have demonstrated that it was the ability of the Nabateans to control the water supply that led to the rise of the desert city, creating an artificial oasis. The area is visited by flash floods, but archaeological evidence shows that the Nabateans controlled these floods by the use of dams, cisterns, and water conduits. These innovations stored water for prolonged periods of drought and enabled the city to prosper from its sale. In ancient times, Petra might have been approached from the south on a track leading across the plain of Petra around Jabal Haran, the location of the tomb of Aaron, said to be the burial place of Aaron, brother of Moses. Another approach was possibly from the high plateau to the north. Today, most modern visitors approach the site from the east. The impressive eastern entrance leads steeply down through a dark, narrow gorge in places only 3–4 m wide, called the Sick, a natural geological feature formed from a deep split in the sandstone rocks and serving as a waterway flowing into Wadi Musa. One of the main things that Petra is known for is its Hellenistic architecture. The facades of the tombs in Petra display this type of architecture, and it also grants reflection on the different types of cultures that the Nabateans traded with. Most of these contain small burials and niches that are carved into the stone. Perhaps a more prominent resemblance to the Hellenistic style comes with its treasury, which is 24 meters wide and 37 meters tall and gives reference to the architecture of Alexandria. The facade of the treasury features a broken pediment with a central tholos inside, and 2 obelisks appear to form into the rock at the top. Near the bottom of the treasury there are twin Greek gods Castor and Pollux, who protect travelers on their journeys. Near the top of the treasury 2 Victories are seen standing on each side of a female figure on the tholos. This female figure is believed to be the Isis Tyche, Isis being the Egyptian goddess and Tyche being the Greek goddess of good fortune. Another prime example of the Hellenistic architecture featured in Petra is in its monastery, which stands at 45 meters tall and 50 meters wide. This is Petra's largest monument, and is another building carved into the rocks of Petra. The facade of this again features a broken pediment similar to the treasury, as well as another central tholos. The monastery displays more Nabatean touch while at the same time incorporating elements from Greek architecture. Its only source of light is its entrance, standing at 8 meters high. There is a large space outside of the monastery, which is purposefully flattened for worship purposes. Formerly, in the Byzantine period, this was a place for Christian worship. At the end of the narrow gorge, the Sick stands Petra's most elaborate ruin, popularly known as Al-Kazm, hewn into the sandstone cliff. While remaining in remarkably preserved condition, the face of the structure is marked by hundreds of bullet holes made by the local Bedouin tribes that hoped to dislodge riches that were once rumored to be hidden within it. A little farther from the treasury, at the foot of the mountain called Enner, is a massive theatre positioned so as to bring the greatest number of tombs within view. At the point where the valley opens out into the plain, the site of the city is revealed with striking effect. The theatre was cut into the hillside and into several of the tombs during its construction. Rectangular gaps in the seating are still visible. Almost enclosing it on 3 sides are rose-colored mountain walls, divided into groups by deep fissures and lined with knobs cut from the rock in the form of towers. The theatre was said to hold around 8,500 people. The performances that audiences were able to attend here were poetry readings and dramas. Gladiator fights were also said to be held here, and attracted the most audience, although no gladiator was able to gain any momentum or fame due to the heavy mortality rate that came with it. The theatre was one of many structures in Petra that took significant damage due to the 363 Galilee earthquake. The Petra Pool and Garden Complex is a series of structures within the city center. Originally said to be a market area, excavations at the site have allowed scholars to identify it as an elaborate Nabatean garden which included a large swimming pool, an island pavilion, and an intricate hydraulic system. Ahead of the Petra Pool and Garden Complex lies Colonnaded Street, which is among few artifacts of Petra that was constructed rather than natural. This street used to hold a semicircle nymphum, which is now in ruins due to flash flooding, and used to hold Petra's only tree. This was intended to be a symbol for the peaceful atmosphere that the Nabateans were able to construct in Petra. Once the Romans took control of the city, Colonnaded Street was narrowed to make room for a sidewalk, and 72 columns were added to each side. The high place of sacrifice is located at the top of Jebel Madba mountain. The beginning of the hike is near Petra's famous theatre. From there, the site of the high place of sacrifice is around an 800-step hike. One commonly believed sacrifice that took place here were libations. Another common form of sacrifice that took place here was animal sacrifice. This is due to the belief that the tomb of the prophet Aaron is located in Petra, which is a sacred site for Muslims. In honor of this, a goat was sacrificed annually. There is also a biblical passage taking place here in which prophet Abraham sacrificed his son in honor of God, but he was said to be saved by an angel. Other rituals also took place here, including the smoking of frankincense. The royal tombs of Petra embody the unique artistry of the Nabateans, while also giving display to Hellenistic architecture. But the façades of these tombs have worn due to natural decay. One of these tombs, the palace tomb, is speculated to be the tomb for the kings of Petra. The Corinthian tomb, which is right next to the palace tomb, has the same Hellenistic architecture featured on the treasury. The 2 other royal tombs are the Silk Tomb and the Urn Tomb. The Silk Tomb does not stand out as much as the Urn Tomb. The Urn Tomb features a large yard in its front, and was turned into a church after the expansion of Christianity in 446 AD.